Good morning, Rabbi Boisai. Continue taking coffees. Davening ended late a little bit. So we're going to start. As long as you respect the emails, you don't talk. Check this out. Yesterday, here in the base Medrash, Reb Nissim Black, they videoed Yaakov Citron. Here, right over here. You can sit over here. I don't know. Don't worry about the jacket. They're doing a music video with the MDY theme. It's not about the daf. So here is a message from Reb Nissim Black. Here we go.
Hey, good morning, Rabbi Side. This is Reb Nissim, and I am here at MDY. And I'm telling you, we're starting a new daf, Elu Metzias. So if you want to be able to learn with your son and not be taught by your son, you should go come here and tune into the daf. This is it.
So, Elu Metzias is starting in 2 days. It's a great time and opportunity to start. Those who did not start by Shnai Moichzim can start Elu Metzias. Those who had a rough time in Shnai Moichzim, you get a new start by Elu Metzias, huh? He does a different type of daf, he told me. Yeah. That's right. I didn't want to. So, Baruch Hashem, these are the names of the people that took upon themselves to try to raise this money. Again, it's not a chiyuv. We take a page, you become a team. You have a team. And all it means is that you make a cheshbon. What could I raise for MDY if I just put it on my status without any major phone call? Of course, you can make some phone calls without a lot of pressure. And when it says a number here, it doesn't mean that they're chayiv to pay this amount. They're going to try to take upon themselves this amount. Mendy Pilchik, 5,000. Yitzi Eisenthal, 2,500. Yosef Ben Zev, 10,061. And I realized afterwards, somebody explained to me, I was speaking to Simi Mandelbaum. I called him up because he took upon himself $20,000. I said, I got to speak to this guy. Simi Mandelbaum and Yosef Ben Zev are both from Chicago. They run basically the Chicago Shir. And he explained to me, Simi, that Yosef likes 61 because 61 is Samachal, which is my initials. Stefansky Eli. It depends how you look at it. Sitra Achra. Very good. It's covered me. Fine. Mo Landy, $2,500. David Hoffman, $360. You see, Rabbi, so you can take $360. You don't have to be embarrassed. It's Gishmak. Take $360. Then you'll up it a little bit. You see, it'll come. One grandmother will send you $360. So you continue Vite. You'll do a little more. Mati Wairib, 1,000. Yaakov Laska, 5,000. Yechiel Shon, 5,000. Gedalia Miller, 1,800. Gedalia Miller collects money all day long for his organization, Kesher Nashi. So for him to go out of his way and take on this $1,800 is huge. I'm very makar toivet to him. Yaakov Levitin, 3,600. Yochanan Itzkowitz, $10,000. Elliot Moskowitz, 1,800. Moti Belsky, 1,000. Avrameir Farkovitz, 1,800. Zev Wasserman, 1,000. Avrumi Bensky, I don't know. Levi Friedman, 360. Also, he's a Benahel. He runs a school here. He's constantly raising money for his school. Yeshur Koyach Levi. Eli Hefter, 3,600. Mati Middeldorf, 3,600. Where is he today? 3,600. What? Where is he? Ah, get over here. Get over here. Tell me he's not part of the daf.
Day of the wedding.
Shalom Aleichem, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. Wow. Should see a lot of nachas. Wow, it's beautiful, beautiful. Oh, the two Chutonim. Get over here. Bechutin, get over quick. Drop your coffee. Come here. Come. You stay. Rabbi Kaladi, stay here. It's beautiful. Aaron Aronov, 1,800. Moshe Banda, 1,000. Simi Mandelbaum, 20,000. Mention his name again. Mazel Tov, Yishkoyach, you're a Kohen. Give us a bracha. Okay, you know what? Give the couple a bracha. Look at this. Both of them. Oh, and we got a Vart going on there from Judah. Tonight is a Vart. Mazel Tov, another one. Anybody else want a hug? Love you, man. Shkoyach. That's why we have editors. Shkoyach. Go sit down, behave. Adam Dubin, Joel Mizrahi, 1,000. Moshe Feintuch, $10,000. We got another 10,000er. By the way, if you actually raise $10,000, you get a free room for a couple at the not the cruise. It's not going to be a cruise yet. The Shabbaton, and that's about a $2,000 value. I mean, the true value is $20,000, but all you have to pay in cash is $2,000 to get there. You coming this year? To the Shabbaton. Maybe $10,000 you go for free. Otherwise, seriously, you know what? Let me say this. Mendy, check this out. Reb Nachman Seltzer. I want to tell you something. I want to schmooze with you. Reb Nachman Seltzer came to me. I didn't come to him. He says, how could I help you? How can I make phone calls? I'm good at this. Give me some numbers. I want to do this. It's him. Avi Kamiatsky, the guy you're schmoozing with right now, same thing, called me up yesterday. Maybe I'll fly in with you. We'll go somewhere. We'll go knocking on doors. You want to come with me? Good. Let's go. I'll go with you to South Africa, but we might get arrested over there. Joe Sharp, $5,000. You heard what I just said? Gedalia Weinberger, $2,000. Akiva Boaz, $2,000. Yosef. Oh, this guy, I'm pretty sure it's him. He sent in an email, Akiva Boaz. I think it was him. He sent an email. He says, I have 1 or 2 hours a day that I want to dedicate. Could I make phone calls? Could I do something? Let me know what I can do. Yosef Ehrman, $1,500. He's not here. My brother from another mother. Barry Asman, $5,000. Yishkoyach. Eli Melech, Naiman, $3,600. And Aaron Avidayev, $1,000.
So wait to read this when the money comes in.
No. We are machshav kemaisa. The people want it. All right, we have a great picture here. MDY reunion at Mordei Goffman's engagement. Longtime MDY Daffer, the one in the middle. Here with Gershi Rose and Yehuda Shuk. Yehuda Shuk is all the way to the right. Gershi Rose, the famous Gershi Rose from the status, is on the left. And the Chassan is in the middle. Jackson Lakewood, representative Yehuda Shuk. Do we have some time? No. You mentioned on Motzi Shabbos about Agoy Tzvi Kushalevsky. I want to share with you an amazing letter by the Lubavitcher Rebbi. Zechus Ali wrote in Mariat. Someone once wrote a letter to Lubavitcher Rebbi complaining that his house was too small and that he didn't have enough room for his many children. The problem was that he couldn't afford to buy a larger home. The Lubavitcher Rebbi wrote back, I received your letter and I'm delighted to hear the good news that you found your bashert, the wife that was fitting for you, and that you got married. I'm overjoyed to hear that you have a bachar. Each thing's nice, slow, and a whole line. Firstborn son. And Hashem gave you a daughter and another son, another daughter. You're all healthy, found the ways of the Torah. You should know that many people don't share all the good that you are enjoying. I also understand from your letter that you're living in your own home, while so many other couples are still living in rented apartments. As you know, on the other side of the letter, the Rebbe added, and in regard to your problem that your home is too small and you can't afford to buy a larger one, if you'll praise Hashem for all the kindness He gives you, and if you dance from joy for all of the above, Hashem will give you a larger house. When we recognize the good... It's not. When we recognize the good, it creates a vessel, enables us to receive in more kindness from Hashem. Story by Rebbe Melech Bitterman, respectively Moshe Pearl, Kiryas Yoel, Monroe, your Talmud Subis 65. You hear this? Moshe Pearl from Kiryas Yoel. All right, so here's Help MDY, change lives through Torah, one yid at a time, one daf at a time. Ramapet Shemesh, inviting all MDY members, even those who already pledged. You hear, Levi? You could come. Sushi and Geshmaka food. Strategy and plans for our 2024 campaign. Meet with rebellion all MDY Israel members. All MDY Israel members. Sushi and refreshments will be served. Tune in live Zoom, Tuesday, March 19th. That is tomorrow night at 8 p.m. right here in the Beis Medrash. It's not about the daf, it's about the Yomi. And finally, Rabbi Isai, check this out. I think this was Karlin. I went to Karlin, so they had a game show, yeah? And here it is.
Okay. When I say the word Alizah, you will say that. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Just one more time, a little louder. Good morning, Rabbi Isai.
But the most important thing is check out the game. From the G'dolei Adar, right next to the Chavetz Chaim. What? On the angle. No, touching. Corner to corner with the Chavetz Chaim. Top left. Do you need to see it? Let me zoom in. Here's the Chavetz Chaim. Whatever. I'm just saying. Okay, we'll have to skip this.
So good that Mishpacha magazine made them very small.
I love it. That I actually liked.
There's a difference.
Zoleli Kesef. Okay. Rabbi say, I have to do the sponsors. The Masechet sponsor now is to say for the speedy return of all the hostages, the Paras HaChodesh, Nishmas Zechariah ben Moshe, Nishmas Chaya bas Yosef. Paras HaChodesh, Ahron Fraiman, it should be a zechus to rebellion for continuing the dishmaya and teaching Torah to Klal Yisroel. Paras HaYoim ben Presser, Bzchus, Chaya, Gittel, bas Devorah, Alizah. She should have a successful procedure today. It didn't say surgery. Procedure today. Paras HaYoim, Eli and Shani Greenberg, in honor of my Rebbi, Abba. My Rabbi Abba Rennert, Mazel Tov on the Bar Mitzvah, Abba Rennert. Wow, Mazel Tov. Shkoich for telling me this. By Dani Kaladi, Shkoich Dani, who's here today, Mazel Tov for the marriage tonight of Elia Kaladi and Esther Meira Blinder. That's how you pronounce it? Mazel Tov. And Parnas Hayoy Vatzlochim Parnos in the safe return of all the hostages. The heart of the month anonymous for the zechus for an easy child of his daughter and healthy baby. The coffee corner by Mendel Lerner is zechus the chasen of his child. I want to just add one thing, very interesting thing. Yisrael Goldstein left me a text message today that he called 47 people in Borough Park. He says, unfortunately, he got maybe 1 or 2 people to take upon themselves a page. But what he did get out of the 47 people is that 7 people said, I'm so embarrassed. Okay, I want to rejoin the daf. I'm rejoining the daf. So it goes back to that thing that we have to make more phone calls. We have to get these people more engaged in the daf. But also, Borough Park and Flatbush could step up a little bit, take more daf, take more of these pages, dap him. All right. Rabbi Isai, we're holding like 7 lines from the top of Yutes Amud Aleph. So here's an interesting question. Think about this question for a second before you answer. I know what you're going to answer initially. Think about it. What happened? If a couple's in a big fight and the husband, the wife even maybe decide they need to get divorced. Yeah, divorced. Unfortunately. Big. They go to therapy, that's not working out. But the husband never went to a cipher, they didn't write a get. And suddenly the wife dies. Does the husband sit shiva on his wife? Yeah. They're married, right? Yeah. They're married. Anybody argue with that? I mean, I wouldn't be asking, it was so obvious, right?
I know people with such
in that situation. Wow. They wanted to get divorced and then they died. He killed her. Okay. So we're going to see something very, very interesting here. Mamish in a few minutes. Gufa. So the way this is going to work, we actually are very, very familiar with this case, with the case of lending money, writing a shtar beforehand and giving it later on and doing something in between. Yeah, you know the case I'm talking about? I'll show it to you on the screen, you'll see. Again, you write a document today, and you only give it 6 months later. That document could be a get, it could be a loan, and it could be a get shikhr for a slave. 3 things, and that's Amud Aleph. It's going to go through the same case 3 times, basically, more or less the same idea. So it's very, very easy. Chazara. He wrote the document today, gave it 6 months later. What happened in the middle? He either sold a field, sold off some stuff. So he used the person that gets the document at the end to lie and say he actually got the document 6 months earlier, and whatever happened in between happened after the document was given, but in fact it was only given 6 months later. It was written now, but it was given 6 months later. Shalom Aleichem, before I forget. What's your name? Light? Shalom Aleichem. From Chaim? Woodmere. You were at that show that I gave the thing?
The Belsky house when you were there.
Moti Belsky's on that list. I just mentioned his name. Givaldi. Okay. I love it. It was very nice. Shmak Oilam. It's a great place to move to. Okay. So, here we go. It's a great, not as good as the Bava Shemesh. I'm saying, if you're in America, you're stuck. Yeah. I don't want to like shtuck him in his face. He's right here. Guva, matza get isha bashuk. A guy finds a get in the marketplace. Bizman shabal moidi yachzul isha. If he admits that he wrote this get, so you give it to the woman. Ein abal moida lo yachzer lo lezeh. And if the husband doesn't admit, you don't give it back. Why not? You don't want to give it to the woman. That's for sure. She'll go get married with this get. It's not a good get. You don't want to give it to the husband, because if it is a good get and she comes to demand the ksuba, he'll say, look, I have a receipt that I paid off the ksuba, this get. You don't give it back to anyone. You admit that if he admits, you admit that if he admits, you do give it back. Ask the Gemara why. This is the problem. Anytime there's a difference between the time that you wrote the document and you gave the document, some funny business could happen in between. What could happen? Perhaps the get was written in Nisan, and 6 months later is when he delivered the get. And the husband is going to sell the fruit, the income, he's going to take the income or sell the fruit between those 6 months. Now take a look at this, Rabbi Yisrael. We know throughout Shas, there's something called Nichsei Milug. This is versus Nichsei Tzoyin Barzel, which we're not going to go into. Nichsei Milug means this is a property or something that the woman brings in before she had it, before she got married. Her father, let's say, gave it to her. She had an inheritance. And she comes into the marriage. Why is it called Milug? Very interesting. Because it's like a chicken without feathers, like you pluck its feathers. Milug, to take off the feathers. We have a picture. Oh. Basically it means that you're leaving this chicken without anything. You're using the chicken, you're taking its feathers off, and you're leaving him like that. So how does it work? Let's say this woman, and I know people in Chicago like this. I had we had the privilege of having these girls by us for Shabbos, and they'll tell us, yeah, I have a nursing home, I have 3 nursing homes. Basically the father gives them, when they're 18, 16, 18, gives them nursing homes in their name. Avi knows what I'm talking about. They get married, they have these nursing homes. So, but it's Nichsei Milug. What does that mean? She owns a nursing home. The nursing home is valued at $1 million. Halavai, 1 room, few rooms in there. Okay, $10 million, $100 million. The husband on the right, they get married. This is Lachluchas, of course, from it's based on a real character, a real person in the Gemara. She has duck feet, elephant ears, etc., etc. She's married to Lit from Nadarim also, and he gets a lot of cash out of the nursing home. He keeps on taking the cash, and eventually he just milks it until it's worth only $600,000, and then he dies. What is she entitled to? She's entitled to, oops, what happened? It just jumped. She's entitled to 600. That's it. Let's see if it works. No. Okay. Something happened to the button here. Oh, now it worked. Okay. So she gets the nursing home worth 600. The Yarshim don't have to make the difference between the 600 and the million. That's Tzoyin Barzel. Tzoyin Barzel means it's metal that he has to pay whatever it was worth when she got married. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Nichsei Milug. So now here's our case right here. Check. This is pretty cool. Look at the Yerushalmi's hat, right? He has the nice Yerushalmi hat. He writes a get in Nisan. He writes a get, okay? That's step 1. Step 2, he sells the fruit that he has from her field. He sells the fruit to this guy, Mr. Lekeach. Now take a look at the woman. First of all, look, she doesn't have a crack on her right foot. She has, here, let's look. She has on the white socks. So what does she do? Take a look. It's not working. I ruined it because I made it to, let's go back. Here we go. We're ready at Kasav Get. These things are not, here we go. She tosses a thing at him, so Mamela, he gives her a get. Yeah, she knocked off his hat. Now he has Yerushalmi Amaka. She's divorced. When he sold the fruit, was he allowed to sell the fruit? Yes. Why? Still married. Is there any tzad that he wouldn't be able to sell the fruit? He wrote a get, but he didn't give it to her. Okay, he didn't give it to her. And then she goes and she says, wait a minute, give me back my fruit. Why? Because I got a get. She lies and she says, I got the get 6 months earlier. My husband had no right to sell you the fruit. Look, it says Mefurish in the get Nissan, and therefore I deserve all the fruit. And she takes the fruit out. That's also for her to do. Yeah? Understood? So, let's see inside. Let's be concerned. Maybe he wrote the get 6 months earlier. And he gave it to her 6 months later. In between those 6 months, he goes ahead. And he sells fruit in those 6 months. She pulls out the get. And it says in the get that she's divorced actually 6 months earlier. She's going to take the fruit back against halacha. So listen to this. This is going to shock the olam, especially all those who said that he could sell the fruit no problem. Especially all those who said that if a husband thinks about divorcing his wife, he doesn't sit shiva, or he does sit shiva. They said, and over here we might see a shita that says you don't sit shiva. Why? There's a Manda Omar called, not Stam Manda Omar, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, who holds. Once a husband decides in his mind that he wants to divorce his wife, even if he doesn't write her a get, in his mind he hates her, he doesn't want her anymore, Ein Labal Peiros, he no longer could take the fruit. Shapir. That makes a lot of sense. That's why you could give the get back. You could give the get back to the wife. Why? Because what's the worst that's going to happen? You're worried that he's going to sell fruit. If he does sell fruit, she deserves it. I'll say it by the turning of the daf, maybe. Okay, so. But according to the Manda Omar that says, like you all thought, that he's able to take the fruit all the way until he gives her the get. They're still married until that moment. Why do you give the get back? It could cause a lot of trouble. She'll pretend that she was divorced 6 months earlier. So, the Rashbam in Bava Basra says that according to Reb Shimon, if somebody writes a get to his wife, writes a get, puts it away, he's waiting for the right time to give it to her, and she dies, he doesn't inherit her. He does not inherit her. Why? Because he wrote a get. They're still married halachically, she's still Eishes-ish. But that thought makes some sort of separation. He doesn't get her Yerusha. So in Mela, the Yamsha Shloima and other Achronim, like the Akiva Eger and other Achronim say, based on that, a person just thinks to give his wife a get, he shouldn't sit Shiva, because Shiva is a sign of being misabel. I'm sad that the person died. In this case, he might be happy that she died. So a lot of people they ask, but wait a minute. The Rashbam is talking about when he wrote a get. And over here he's thinking about a get. It's slightly different. Okay. But even writing is not giving. Writing is an act of, I want to get divorced. So he made up his mind, I want to get divorced. So the Shoyal Meishav Passings Halacha. Listen to this. That in a case where both the husband and the wife decide they want to get divorced, in that case, they don't sit shiva on each other. Even though there was no get given, I think it's a major chiddush, and the Olam should remember it.
They shouldn't.
They shouldn't.
Wow.
Whatever, shouldn't. Anyway, the next 16 lines over here, it says on the side of my Gemara, not every Gemara has it. There's Hagoyz V'Tziyunim. If you have Hagoyz V'Tziyunim, he brings the Ritva, who says that this next 16 lines is not part of the Gemara. It's part of one of the Goinim. Rav Yehudai Goin wrote it. And the Gemara asks, Umayshna Mishtori Choyv. No, you're right. We skipped. I skipped. Says the Gemara, we're not concerned. No, we're not concerned. If she comes to grab fruit out of this in the last steps over here, where she grabs the fruit out of the skinny guy in the blue, the skinny guy is going to say, hey, what are you doing? She says, I have a get. So prove to me when you wrote this get. What do you mean you have a get? Did you write the get yesterday? Did the husband write it 6 months ago? Because I bought the fruit 5 months ago. What do you mean you come now with a get? So the Gemara says, yeah, when did you get the get to be divorced? Did you get it recently? Or did you have to prove it, Mrs. Woman, who is trying to take my fruit? Says the Gemara, but we don't say the same thing by Yachav. And this case we saw many times. We had the Mishnah, our Mishnah, not our Mishnah, but the one before. Where is the Daf Yomi or so? If a person finds a loan document and it has real estate attached in it, you don't give it back. We said it's even when the loiv admits that there was a loan. And what was the reason? Here's the case a little bit, just to remind the Olam slightly. He wrote the loan document in Nissan. He sold a property somewhere afterwards, and then only later, a half a year later, in Nissan, in Tishrei, should say over here. Oh no, in Tishrei. Sorry, it does say Tishrei, but the loan document was from Nissan. In Tishrei, he takes out a loan. In the loan document, it says that there's property, there's real estate attached to this loan document. So the Malva is going to go and grab that piece of real estate that's in the center, and he has no right to grab it. Why? Because it was sold before the loan happened. The loan happened 6 months later, or 3 months after he bought it, whenever. But it's still not attached to the loan document, because it only becomes attached to the loan document by the loan. And the loan only happened in Tishrei. So that's a problem. We said over there's a problem. So the Gemara is asking, why is it a problem? We just said that the person that bought the fruit is going to tell the other person, hey, prove it to me when the get was written. So over here also, he'll tell the Malva, prove to me when you got the shtar. When was it written? Oh, it was written in Nissan, forget about it. What's the difference? So the Gemara explains the difference, but let's see the question first. And we're concerned that he wrote it in Nissan and he only borrowed money 6 months later in Tishrei. The Malva is going to go grab the property. As the Gemara, the head there, the buyer should come back to the Malva and say, when he comes to grab the property, prove to me when you received the shtar. Maybe you just got it after I bought the property, then you can't take my property. Maybe before, so you could, but you need to prove it. Says Gemara, I'll tell you nafkamina. Amri, I'll say about peh. A get, what's the purpose of a get? A get has one main purpose. What is it? That a woman can get married to somebody else. She's not Eish Sesh. In this case, we're using the get for something else. She's using the get to take back fruit from somebody. That's not its main purpose. So if you're not using it for the main purpose, the guy's going to say, wait a minute, what are you doing here? So what if you have a get? You don't have a document. You're using some sort of document that says that you are allowed to the rest of the world. Tell me when exactly did this document happen? But in our case over here, this loan document, the loan document is for the Malva to go collect his loan. So it's part of the collection to take somebody's property. That is part of it. So in that case, the guy that owns the property, that bought the property, he won't make a big fuss because Bezin gave him the document. So he figures, okay, Bezin know what they're doing. Bezin gave him the document so that he could take my property. I'm not going to make a fuss about it. With the get, he'll make a fuss. Says Gemara, Amri, when it comes to get, the guy that bought the property, he's gonna sue her. Oh man. The reason why the Rabbanan gave her a get is that she shouldn't be a guna and sit for the rest of her life by herself. But she wants to use the get now for a secondary purpose. To pull fruit out of my property. Let her prove it. If she can't prove it, I'm not giving it to her. However, the person that purchased the karka, he's not going to come and sue. Since the Bezin gave back the shtar, pshita, it's pasha to him. Why did the Bezin give him a shtar? It's in order to grab property. So you see that Obviously, Rabbanan gave it to him so that he could pull stuff out. Great, and that's why he doesn't make a big fuss. That's why he doesn't claim anything. Now we're going to do the sugya all over again for slaves. Here's a kasha for the Olam. The Olam probably remembers this. Is it a good thing for a slave to be free or a bad thing? Do we say Zachin L'Adam Shlei B'fanav, I want to acquire his get shikhr for him? Or not? I can't do that because it's really bad for him. Which one is it? Hello? That's machlokes. What's the reason it should be a good thing? He's free. He can marry a Jewish woman. And what's the reason it's not a good thing? Huh? A slave likes his freedom. He likes the shifcha that he could not marry. Yeah, zilalei, pritzalei. Says Gemara Shechur Arvadim. You found, it says in our Mishnah, on Yudche, it says you found a document, emancipation. How do you say it? To release the slave, a Shechur Eved, the best way to say it. Torah Rabbanan. You found one of these documents. If we're going through the whole thing again, just a third time, we did a get, we did a shtar chayv, now we're talking about an Eved. When the master admits that he wrote this document and he wants to free a slave, you could give it back. If the master doesn't admit, you don't give it back. Says the Gemara, if the master admits, you do give it back. Why? Same kind of story. Let's see it. Where was it? So he wrote this shtar shikhr nisan. He only gave it to the guy 6 months later in Tishrei. So he was only released in Tishrei. What happened was the slave went ahead, and the slave bought property. If a slave buys property while he's still a slave, who owns the property? The master. Mashkona Eved, Kona Rabbi. The slave claims later on, when he gets the shtar shikhr, he's going to say, wait, when I bought the real estate, which obviously went up in value, and Ramavat Shemesh, and down, whatever it is, he's like, hey, what was this piece of property was mine a half a year ago. Look, it says in the shtar nisan. So he's going to go grab the property. In fact, what do we say? It's not his. It's the master's. It's a problem. Look at this. He becomes a mamash amoridik tamid chacham, puts on a hat, a long beard. It's the same guy, right? Nachamol. Oh, no, I got to do something to this computer. Okay, fine. So that's the problem. He's going to go purchase some real estate. The master comes and sells the property because it says. And then the slave comes, he goes ahead and he pulls out his shtar shikhr and it says, wait a minute, Rabbi Isai, it's my field. You had no business buying it from my master. And he takes away their property. Says Gemara, that's when we hold that it's a good thing for the slave to go free. But so why? So remember we had this. Check this out. When the signatures appear on the document, at that moment, it's a good document according to Abaya. And there's actually an attachment to real estate, whatever. But in this case, the Eidim, since it's good for the slave to go free, so they acquire that get shikhr for the slave. He goes free immediately. So he went free all the way in Nisan. When he purchased the property, whose property is it? The slaves, because he already went free. So he's right. But if you hold that it's not good for the slave, so then the Eidim cannot be zechus for him. You can't do something bad against somebody without his permission. So then why would you give back the where? Oh, keep on going, you say. I didn't skip. and that's it. So as the Gemara, the same terms as we said, that's the answer. Why do you give the Eved back his document? He's going to do something wrong with it. So the Gemara is not going to do anything wrong. What, he's going to go grab fields from people? Real estate? They'll say, hey, prove to me when you became free. I don't trust you. That you were free to Nissan, you were actually free maybe half a year later. Prove it to me. I want to know when your master gave you the document. There's a Maridik Kasha here that the Ahron asked. It's an unbelievable Kasha. Listen to this. What are you telling me? It's bad for a slave to go out, to be according to this man Damar. Yeah? What does the Torah say? The Torah says that if you punch the slave in the eye, you knock out his tooth, he goes free. Well, what do you mean? You do something bad to him, first you knock out his eye, and then you punish him again and you set him free? Obviously, to be set free is a good thing. I'm awarding him. You knocked out his eye, so I'm going to award him and let him go free.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's what I was thinking. Takan, somebody said that last night also. I didn't see them answering that. They're saying like this. There's koilo avi. That what? That betzem. It's betzem. It's a chayv. Just in this case, the guy is violent. He knocked out his eye. So in this case, he doesn't want to be there. So he goes out. We actually say it's good for him to go out into zechus in that case. But typically speaking, it's bad. But the Kotzker Rebbe says, like the Rambam, that it's really good for him. But he doesn't know it. He thinks he's an Eved. So in his mind, the priest is whatever, that's good for me. So you can't force somebody to do something against what he thinks is good, but his neshama knows that it's good. So it's be'etzem zechus, but unfortunately, we can't force him to do something that he views as a chayv. That's why we don't do it for him. And if you think about it, the Klal Yisroel, when we were in Mitzrayim, we were happy being slaves. Most of Klal Yisroel didn't want to leave Mitzrayim. Zechariah Sadaga, we get attached to silly stuff. And lahavdil a million, not even, choshech, there are terrorists that refuse to leave jail because it's even better for them in the jail cells in Israel than to go back to who knows where. Not Ayyim. Baruch Hashem, today they changed a little, but there were times that literally stories where they had to pull these guys out of the cells and send them back on a bus. Says the Gemara. Daitiki Matan, it says in our Mishnah that if you find a daitiki or a gift, Torah Rabban, is daitiki. What does a daitiki mean? Says the Gemara, this is what it is. It's a document that's written for a person that's about to die. Has different halachas because even his words mean something. You don't have to make a kinyan. And basically, there's an attached condition that if he doesn't die, somehow there's a miracle and he wakes up from this, then his stuff doesn't go to that person as a gift. And here it is in the words, Daiti ki do tehei lemekam v'liyos. Shemeis nechasav neploini. Okay? Shmak story, just as a public announcement, it's very kedai to make a will, especially that to make sure that the children don't fight. Everybody knows, everybody has their story with mishpacha members and people that they know, that over money, siblings fight. So there's once a father who said, my kids will never fight over the Yerusha, ever. So when he died, the lawyer gathered all the kids. He said, okay, it says here in the tzava that you have to take good care of mommy. Say it? Yeah. And fine. So they take good care of mommy, I think. Then he calls them back, like half a year later. He says, okay, let's see. Did you take care of her? What happened? It turns out they didn't take such good care of her. He says, okay. Then he turns the page, he says, okay. It says in chapter 2 of the tzava, it says, if the kids don't take care of mommy, then all the money goes to the nicest nursing home there is. We're going to, and kachava. Maisa Shaya. It was a test to see if they're going to take care. Unfortunately, they didn't. And then one of the kids said, oh, that's what he meant. That the kids won't fight over the Yerusha. There were talking no fights. Nobody got anything. Okay, Zokti Gemara. I know somebody in this room that's what the Shver did. Everything to tzedakah. That's it. No fights. There's no fights if everything's tzedakah. I don't agree with it 100%, but okay. Well, it depends. If it's all time DY, that's a different story. Fine.
That's the right approach.
That is, yeah.
God made a mistake and gave you extra money. You should.
Well, yeah, but what the Torah doesn't say like you. The Torah says give it to your kids. Not only that, if you try to give it to one kid over the other, it doesn't work really. The Torah says you give it to you this, and the Gemara says even if your kid is not so from, not so on the derech, you give it to him. You don't know the future. It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah to give it to the Moisdas. I don't know. Anyway, says the Gemara, Matana kol shekoseh boy ma'ayoyim l'achar misa. And matana means from today and after death. So what does that mean? You have to write this down in your pencil. Today means you get the principle, but you can't do anything with it. Today, you get the principle. I'm giving my child the principle. This is a great way because, unfortunately, we heard stories. People thought they'll be nice to the children, and they gave them the house or whatever, and then the kids kicked them out. The kids like, put them in a nursing home, big deal. Let's downsize. What do you need such a large house? Kicks them out of that. So the father is smart. He says, listen, I'm giving you the house, but only the principle. You can't use it until after death. Ask the Gemara. What? So gift is only if I say from today and after death. From today you get the principle, and after death you get the payros. Who the kani? That's the only way you kani. V'loy loy kani. And if not, I hear you guys upstairs. V'loy loy kani. And if not, it doesn't work. Guys, I hear you upstairs. So
they don't hear you though.
If Get a glass and we won't have a problem. But until then, do me a favor. It's disturbing. So, the question is, it seems from the Gemara, the only way a gift works is if you do it like this. You give it after death. Well, I can't give somebody a gift today? I can't give a chas and a present. What does that mean? There is a gift that's similar to shchimeraz. Of course, you could give a gift right now. But I could do one also similar to shchimra. That I give today part of it and the rest later on. In that case, it's a regular gift. You're right, it works right now. This is a type of gift that it's a two-step process. Some today, some tomorrow. So the Gemara, time of the Layamrit. All these things in the Mishnah. Go back to the Mishnah. There's 5 stars in the Mishnah. Get nashim, shichur avadim, daitiki, matana, shoivrim, receipts. You find these documents. It says you don't give it back because maybe he didn't want to give it. The time of the Layamrit because he didn't want to give it. But what happens if he does say give it? You can do give it. That's the Gemara contradiction. Our Mishnah says l'chayr they can give it back. You find the document, you give it back. Vermina says in the Brayso, you find these documents exactly the same documents that says in our Mishnah. Even if both of them admit that it was written and everything, we're concerned for some shtick going on here. Maybe he wrote it to one, then he gave it to us. He wrote a second star for somebody else, then he took it back, as the Gemara is going to explain in a second. And then he used the first star, pretending that he gave it to the first guy. The kid, sir, it's a problem. How do we reconcile the difference between the Bryce and the Mishnah? Don't worry, Yosef, I'm going to do the sponsors. We're talking about 2 different things. When the guy is nice and healthy, you don't give it back to him. But a shchimera, a guy that's on his deathbed, then you give it to whoever he says to give it. And the Gemara is going to explain beautifully why. The turning of the Daf is sponsored. Don't worry, Shachris. Kidnovations in honor of my Uncle Reb Elchanan Pressman, zechus Akiva Simcha Ben Feiga, whose birthday is today, 22 years old. Ner Tamid of Baltimore, Maryland, in honor of Fishel and Simcha Gross. Thanks to them, 137 people learned 16,000 727,000 minutes, and was cited Bava Kama with MDY. Zog the Gemara. Masnis in the Gemara explains. Masnis in the Mishnah that says by us. It seems like from our Mishnah you could be medayik. It says the reason why you don't give back the document is because the guy doesn't admit. But if he does admit that he wrote the document, you give it back. Why? Because we're talking about a guy that's dying. The bar mehadru, he's the type of person that could take it back, put it on. He could change his mind 25 times. The last thing that he says goes. And it only happens when? When does it become the person's property? When he dies. Damrinon ma'ikel meimar. Because we say, what is the possibility here? Dilma kasve mikar lahai. Maybe he wrote the document first to Ruvain, and he just got lazy, put it on the side, put it in his drawer. He didn't give it to Ruvain. And then he said, you know what? I like this guy better. Oh, like the mice I said over the other day. The guy is dying. He calls up his nephew. He says, hey, I want to give you all my stuff. And before he says all my stuff, the guy says, I told you, don't ever call me during work. I'm busy. Can't you call me at night? And the guy like, I'm dying. So he hung up the phone and he had nothing. So he called up the niece and he gave everything to the niece, $50 million. So so you decide, you know what? You, nephew, you didn't pick up the phone. I'm going to somebody else. You have an ally. Says, she moved from here to there. What's going on here? So, do you have an ally? Sorry. Where's he? There he is. It wasn't funny, Ashi? Let me say the joke again. I got a minus on that one. Do you have an ally? Dang, I appreciate it. It was good. I thought it was good. So, Nachamol, he writes a document. This, you know what? The story is perfect. I just thought about it. It's perfect. He likes his nephew more than he likes his niece. He calls up his nephew. He says, the guy's rude to him at that moment. His whole life he took care of him, but that moment, he had a bad moment. He thinks he's dying. He doesn't want his money to go stam to the government. So he calls up his niece. You know what? You take the $50 million. So he writes her a star. And then all of a sudden, this Zchus HaMesim, he gets more life, he's able to contact his nephew at night. So he says, you know, the document that I wrote early in the morning to give you, I'll give it to you, forget the niece. So, is that what you're worried about? So here's the story. Let's just see it real quickly. There's a Shchimera. He's dying. He has the mask on, the whole thing. Now, this is not exactly accurate, okay? We got to change it around a little bit. Because he wrote the shtar over here. He wrote this. Let me explain. There's two types of documents you can write. One is a shtar shchimera, and one is a shtar matana. Shtar matana, even if he's a shchimera, he could give matana right now. Shchimera is like, he wants to use the leniencies of a shchimera. So over here he wrote one shtar shchimera. He didn't give it to him. He got lost, right? So we got to change that he didn't give it to him. And then he writes, I shouldn't have done that. So here's the question. At this point, right over here, let's say he even gave the shtar shchimera to Reuven, to his niece, to his nephew, whatever. Does he have a right to give it to somebody else now? The answer is yes. A shchimera has the right to take back whatever he wants to take back. So in Mela, what is he concerned? That he wrote Shimon, a shtar matana? Great. So it goes to Shimon. He could take it back. However, if he wrote Shimon, a shtar shchimera, so let's do that. No. Forget this for a second. Oy. Let's say he wrote Shimon a shtar shchimera, not a shtar matana. So what's the concern? That you found another shtar shchimera, and the shchimera is screaming, give it to Reuven, give it to my favorite nephew. In this case, if we give it to Reuven, who wins? Who gets it? Think about it. Shimon has a shtar shchimera, and the next day, the shchimera who's dying, and he can take everything back and regret everything, he says, I want the shtar to go to Reuven. Who wins in this case? Reuven. Because whoever comes last wins. Whoever receives it last wins. Why is it wrong? No. Again, what happened was, it's hard to see from here. He wrote this shtar shchimera first in Nissan. It got lost. I get it. Okay, she's supposed to be over. Then he wrote another shtar shchimera Niyar later on. A month later, 6 months later, he wrote another shtar shchimera and he gave it to Shimon. And then they find the original shtar shchimera. So what's the concern? He might give it to Reuven. No, so what's the problem? He's allowed to give it to whoever he wants. He could rewrite a new one, a brand new one right now today. So let's say in ER, the end of ER, he writes a new one to Reuven. Does it work for Reuven? Yes, you hear Rosh Koil? Am I right? Yeah. Okay, good. So Nachamal. Your
dates are off here.
It doesn't matter. The dates don't matter. That's the only kud of the Gemara.
How's he going to prove it?
We know what he said. He said last, this one. So it goes like this. Let's see inside. Even Matnas Bari. In this case of Matnas Bari. Okay? If he gave the second guy a matas bari, the second guy is going to win and he's going to take it. Why? Because he's the last one. Anything last wins. That's the whole point over here. Since the Shchimra could regret what he's saying and take back whatever he wants until he dies, then whatever's last wins. So even matas bari, if he gave the second guy a regular document of a matana, let's say that the second guy doesn't lose anything. Why? If we produce 2 shtaros, basrais zachi. I just want to point this out. Huh? How could I miss out 5 lines? We're only 5 lines down. I'm 5 lines down from the top.
You didn't miss anything. You're fine. Go on.
I said that for sure. Now I just want to point out that the word basraisa over here in the beginning means that was written last. The word basraisa, the second time that we say it, means it was given last. Big difference. Huge difference. But Kederach HaGemara, they throw in a wrench here, stam, and that's the only confusing part of the sugya. When there's 2 documents that come out at the same time, basraisa zachi. What does it mean over here? The one that was written last wins, which is the second shtar, the shtar of the bari. Why the harder be'mikamaisa? Because it happens to be that the second document is the second person. Why? Because he took it back from the first guy. And if we're talking about this case where, I'll just leave this on so we remember what the basraisa means. And if we're talking about they both got a shtar, the same document, it's both a chimera document. Who wins? The one that received it last. Right? So nitanach. The basraisa zachi over here, basraisa means the one that received it last. In other words, the first guy. Over here, basraisa means the first guy before the basraisa meant the second guy. The gahada be'mikamaisa. Anyways, Rav Boyce, from here it's very, very simple. You ready? Here goes. When it says in the Braisa, we got to pick up speed here. When it says that you don't give it back, why? Why don't you give it back? We just explained that by a shchimera, I give it back. No matter whoever's last wins. Why? Because we're not talking about a shchimera. We're talking about that the giver is very healthy. The la bar mehadru, he's not a person that could take back anything. So once he decides, here, we don't really need to see this, but okay. There's a bari, he's very healthy, he gave 2 documents. So who wins? The guy that gets the document first. Okay, that. Maybe he wrote it to Ruvain we see on the board over here, Ruvain. He didn't give it to him. Then he wrote for Shimon and he gave it to him. And now it's very wordy, Rabbi. I'm serious. Very, very simple, very wordy. So now he took it back. And he wants to give it to Ruvain. Everybody knows I can't regret it. Can't be an Indian giver, right? Is this such a lashon? I gave a gift. So how do I get out of this? So I could get out of it by saying that I gave it to Ruvain. Look, I even have a document that proves it. Look, it's written first. If they both come with the same document to Bezdin, look, if you look at the things, one says Nissan, one says Ziyar. Reuven is going to win. In fact, Shimon should win. Because Shimon actually got the document. So Bezdin tells him, no, go home. Why? We're not going to give this document that says Nissan to Reuven. Why? Look how wordy it is. We're repeating everything all over again. Maybe you wrote it to him. Maybe you have to, and you didn't give it to him. You gave it to Shimon instead. You regretted it. Now, if you didn't give it to another person, if you are right that there's no Shimon involved, so write a new document today. You're tricking us. You already gave a document to Shimon. Because if you didn't give a document to Shimon, just rewrite a new document. It's a big deal. So write him a new document. Let's say that the Kadam Zachi. There's nothing to worry about. Write a new document today, and if it's the first document that you ever wrote, he's going to win. Masculine Zvid. Zvid doesn't like if you look at the top of the Amud, top words, how do you explain the difference between a Mishnah and a Braisa? One says if you find one of these documents, you give it back. One says you don't give it back. So he explains, the Gemara explains, one is talking about a healthy person, one's talking about a Shchimera. How could you explain it like that? Both in the Mishnah, both in the Braisa, they both talk about a daitiki. What's a daitiki, Rabbi Sai? The guy's dying. It's a shchimera. So how can you tell me you're talking about a bari? The Bryce and the Mishnah are talking about a shchimera. One is talking about a father, one is talking about the son of the father. Who's the giver here? The father or the son after the father died? When the Mishnah says, our Mishnah says that you give it back when you find such a document, the father himself could give it back to Bar Mahadru. He's a shchimera, so he can regret what he said, he can give it to whoever he wants. Even if he gave it to somebody else, he could constantly take it back. Why? Because he's not dead yet. When you have two documents, the last one always wins. Because he took back the first one. Just to wake up the oilam one more day, and we're in Ner Tamid of Baltimore. And the Brisa that says you never give back such a document, Bibre. We're talking about the son Amrina because we say maybe the father wrote the document to Ruvain and he never gave it to him, and then he died. And after the father died, the son wrote a new document. He likes the second guy better, so he wrote it to Shimon. And he gave it to him. All of a sudden he said, "Why? What did I do here? I wrote this huge gift to this place like that. I went once to somebody begged me to go to check out his place. They learn all night. So I took my friend from Chicago, who was a big supporter of the place, and we drove there. And our mistake, big mistake, boo-boo, we forgot to call them up and notify them that we're coming. So we come there, people sleeping on the floor, not madzim, at least 10 people sleeping. They tell their wives they're learning all night, and they're shluffing. So this donor from Chicago was so upset, he called up the guy and he yelled at him. So the guy calls me up and says, "Why didn't you tell me you're coming?" What? That's exactly why I didn't tell you you're coming. Why should you? Anyways, he gave a big donation to this place. And he realized I made a big boo-boo. Let me just give it to Sussman's Yeshiva. Why am I giving it over here? Give it to the real place. So says the Gemara, I can't take it back. I already gave it to him. Sorry. So you know what? I have a trick. I'm sorry. I just realized, I didn't realize that the whole famishkeit that the father died, my father already gave it to Sussman's. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Here, look, there's a star that's predated to your star. And then we'll take everything out of him. That's why Ben says, stop. We're not going to give any document to anybody. Not to Sussman, no one. Because in fact, why not? We're not doing a charity event on April 2nd and 3rd. So just take yours. Here, bring it here. Why not? Bring it over here. What are you doing? Tzaddik, this way. Hello. Listen to this. Do not make this a thumbnail though. Anybody that gets to the end of the shir can donate to Sussman's. Eli kushta ka'amris di'av le'avuch. Zila Tasha, Reb Sussman, if you could zoom in on him, he has a special stender that MDY bought him because he's such a choshev Rashiva and we appreciate that he comes here. No, you're a liar. Because if your father indeed wrote a document like this, then why didn't you write it? Why didn't you write a new document? Elamai, you wrote somebody else. Okay, so let them fight it out. If two people come to us with the document, we're going to give it to the first one. Obviously, you're lying. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day.